Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast. Today we're talking with Sonya Perez-Lauterbach. Sonya is a certified leadership coach, change expert, and the creator of Leadership Atlas, a holistic approach to leadership development that integrates the mental, emotional, and embodied aspects of leading. Sonya has worked with leaders from social enterprises, education, and nonprofit organizations for nearly 20 years. She has studied with world-renowned psychiatrist, author, educator Dr. Dan Siegel and earned her Master's of Science in Learning and Organizational Change from Northwestern University. Her coaching practice leverages neuroscience, psychology, somatics, and many insights gained from personal breakthroughs and mental shifts to help others lead and live with more ease and joy. Sonya is a bicultural Latina who loves being in nature, global travel, and learning from her 2 children and husband. She is currently located in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but coaches clients worldwide.
You are the kind of person who wants to improve the lives of others, but you need to take pride in your everyday actions. You Are a Philanthropist believes that every act of goodwill deserves to be recognized as philanthropy. Each individual action you take impacts another's life. Believe that what you do makes a difference. So call yourself a philanthropist and start a ripple effect of generosity that boomerangs back to you. Go to youareaphilanthropist.com/shop. Style your outside to match your inside. Choose a t-shirt, hoodie, or bag to show how much you love giving to others. That's youareaphilanthropist.com/shop.
Hey y'all, I just want to remind you that I need you to subscribe, rate, and review to this podcast. If you're enjoying it and want more conversations like this and want to help people get more involved with philanthropy, please subscribe, rate, and review. I want to thank you to the people who have already rated this podcast 5 stars. Please click to rate it 5 stars. And here is some awesome reviews. I love hearing the different stories from a variety of people's personalities. We all can contribute with the strengths we have in making the world a better place for all of us to live in. Here's another one. I really enjoy this podcast. It's encouraging to see that I don't have to be a multimillionaire who created a philanthropic foundation to impact people. It's my small gifts of my time and resources that add up. I am a philanthropist. And here's another. There are opportunities all around at an early age to remind us to look out for each other. It's a lifelong journey of seeing the opportunities and acting in them. Thanks for a great reminder. Listeners, please do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and review right now so more people can hear more from us and learn more about philanthropy.
Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast with Jen Klein, a certified fundraising executive and philanthropic entrepreneur. This show is dedicated to empowering and inspiring you to make a difference in your community and our world. Jen believes all acts of kindness matter, and this show is designed to help you take pride in your everyday actions of improving the lives of others and making a change in the world. Now, here's Jen.
Sonya, I'm so glad you're here and I'm eager to get into our conversation. Can you tell me how you got started in the nonprofit space?
Yeah, so I say I've been a lifelong idealist. I think even as a little kid, through my family and our church, I was exposed to global inequity and just always was curious about the larger world and the privileges that I had and just kind of the disparities internationally. So I was curious about that, had some opportunities earlier in my life to go international and see just see the larger world. And I think that is what has inspired me. I love being a part of like the global scene and wanting to be a part of bringing more love and opportunities to other people. So I actually, one trip, we were in this small village that had 90% unemployment. And I was like, what am I doing here building this building? Like, I can't hit a nail on the head. So I kind of started thinking about the systems of it. I didn't realize at the time that I'm kind of a systems thinker, but curious, like what this community needs is jobs. And so went on to study business and economics, really with the lens of how can we use business for humanity. And that was my undergrad. And then that journey brought me into global microfinance and looking at how do we address international poverty through banking and some of these like different systems. But while being in the nonprofit, learning more about just the nonprofit world and fundraising and lack of resources and a lot of change and transition that was going on. It was back during the 2007 recession, a lot of layoffs, and it was just really hard being within the nonprofit space. And I remember thinking, we're not here for the money. Like, we got to do this better. The change, leading people. And so that's what led me to organizational change and leadership development. And that's where I was exposed to coaching. And I was really jealous on behalf of all my nonprofits that didn't have access to the same kind of training. Like my colleagues in my master's program were from Google and AMX, and they were from their department of learning and organizational change, right? And I was like, wow, so many nonprofits don't have access to these tools and ways of thinking to help people reach their potential. At that point, I knew I wanted to bring coaching and these change management tools back into the nonprofit space so that we can do our work more effectively and actually enjoy the work that we're doing as we try to change the world.
That's beautiful. I can hear those early experiences being so instrumental in how you navigated your career, and that it kind of has been a journey and a development and to land you where you are today.
Yeah, it has been fun, and just encouragement to people, like wherever they are. Sometimes the journey doesn't always make sense, but it all does end up playing together. I took some time off to be a primary caregiver after my master's, but before really launching my coaching practice. And I remember thinking, like, what is this about? And yet that time with my little ones and watching their brain development and growing and learning in my own self, like learning how to calm my nervous system and working with my own triggers and all of these things really is helping the people that I am coaching, and has really impacted the more holistic approach to leadership development that I use now.
I love that you talked about learning from your children, and I read that in your bio. And so I'm so glad you shared that, because as you know, that's been part of my journey as well. And I wrote about in my book about how important caregiving is, and not just for those we're giving the care to, but to ourselves as well.
The way that we care for ourselves, it impacts how we show up for others. And so often, myself included, like when I was working in nonprofit and even as a mother, it's so easy to be focused outwards and like give and give and give and forget that we actually need to fill up our cup. And so that self-care and even just acknowledging our needs as humans, the rest that we need, and being compassionate with ourselves. When we're compassionate with ourselves, it gives us more compassion for the people around us. And I know for myself, I'm more patient and a better mom and a better teammate when I'm rested, when I'm not hungry, and so taking time to do that is a key element to maintaining the philanthropic or the work that I'm doing.
That's beautiful. I also totally agree with you. And I wrote about self-care in my book. And I know for many in the nonprofit space that being a giver can be draining. And I believe that's because people are not taking care of themselves. And in special circumstances, other people can take care of you as well. But people don't always have that person that they can go to. And so you have to fill your own cup, like you're saying.
Yeah, I think, like, to be honest, sometimes the people within the nonprofit or people who are committed to that generosity, they're the ones they are that person for other people.
Yep.
Right. And, I've coached a number of different people that end up feeling like they give and they give and they give, and it ends up being resentment inside because they know that they need to be taken care of as well. And they don't have that person. They are that person for everyone else. And yet taking time to realize that you're worthy of it too. And you don't have to demand it from other people, but just even saying like, oh, I can create this boundary because I need to fill up my cup and I love to give. And it's not a problem to take care of myself, right? And so it's like feeling safe to give ourselves the permission to take care of ourselves is a process and it's a practice, especially if you've just like your whole life been known as the giver. Like what happens when you say, actually, I need to take care of myself, it can feel uncomfortable. That, I talk about like our mindset and our nervous system. When you feel uncomfortable, you don't want to do it, right? And so then you keep on like, burning the candle on two ends because that's what you're used to. And so it is a practice of like, oh, actually, when I take care of myself, I have more to give. It's not easy. And I think like if we could read about it in a book and do it, then we'd all be probably a bit healthier. But this is why I do coaching, because it's a practice of coming back to it. Like, where are the thoughts and the fears that I have about taking care of myself? It's more about identity work. It's not just about the bubble bath, right? Or the manicure, or even scheduling. If you schedule a massage and you go to a massage and the whole time you're thinking, I shouldn't be here, I'm not worthy of this, or I'm being selfish, or I have all these other things I need to be doing, you're not really getting the rejuvenation. So it is a bit about the identity and working on holding the identity of I can take care of myself and I care for my community. Like those don't have to be exclusive. And when I see this happen for people, they actually unlock more capacity in themselves. And so it's worthwhile. It's worth doing the work. It's worth exploring what it feels like to take care of ourselves, because we can unlock even more capacity and it feels better. I say when you feel better, you lead better. And so leading from that fullness is just a lot more fun and sustainable.
That's beautiful. I call it a giving scale. I like to think about what Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so there's this balance of equality between us and needing to take and nourish ourselves, like you're saying, and also be able to help others, which is so enjoyable as well. These are both ways we can fill our cup, through self-care and giving to others, because as I like to say, giving is selfish because it does feel good to give. There is a feedback loop and proven science about the helper's high. To give to others can help us feel better as well. Can you talk more about the mindset aspect of how we can support ourselves in that area?
Yeah. So there's so many different things around like how we think about ourselves is so critical. Similar to what you're saying, like love yourself. Like if you actually don't think that you're worthy of care, how is that impacting how you show up? And just your energy too. So what we think impacts our health. So if we're chronically stressed or chronically feeling like we're not worthy of taking rest, like if you have a mindset that's like, I have to do all these things in order to rest, actually rest is your birthright. Like as humans, we need to rest. And you don't have to do anything to earn that rest. And so that's like that's a, example of a mindset. Like if you have a deep belief that's like, I have to do all this before I can rest, then you don't end up taking the rest that you need. But if you can shift your mindset to knowing like I'm worthy of rest, and rest is a key ingredient in order for me to be able to give to my community, then that little shift will actually give you more energy, because then you're taking you're taking care of yourself and giving yourself the fuel in order to show up with joy rather than resentment and exhaustion. And I think you're like our brain and our mind is more open to receiving that giver's high when we're giving from this place of abundance and love and openness rather than, oh, I just got to go do this one more thing. And like, let me give you an example. So when our brain is focused on fear, our perspective, like our eyes actually narrow. Like scientifically, it shows like our eyes narrow. We're focused on getting out of danger. This is like how our body works to protect us. But if you're trying to do volunteerism or an activity that's for other people, but you're doing it from a place of chronic stress, your perspective is going to be narrow and you're going to miss some of the like the beautiful things and the love and the joy that is actually being generated from that activity. So if you can enter into those activities with an openness and abundance, then you're actually going to be more open to receiving and seeing the goodness and the joy that is being generated from those acts.
Please tell us how you enjoy giving back through your coaching clients.
Oh, yeah. I really love coaching because it enables people to show up with that joy and ease and gives them the energy to sustain the impact that they're wanting to make. I mean, you said in the opening, like, we're all philanthropists. You're wanting to care for your fellow human. And so this is so true of my clients as well. So when they go from a place of, I should be doing this thing, or chronic stress of there's so much to do. And we all know there are a lot of causes out there that need our support. And even just looking at the challenges that our world is facing right now, it can be overwhelming. And so going from that space of overwhelm and exhaustion and like wanting to make a difference, but feeling so overwhelmed, to a place where they feel empowered to use their gifting and are having fun with it and able to receive that giver's high through their career or through, whatever acts that it is that they're taking. Being a boss that is not accidentally creating a toxic workplace because they're taking care of their mind, they're working with their emotions. It's just so much fun. I see like the ripple effects happening. That's what I love. Being able to help that individual sustain what they want to do in the world with more ease and joy. That's just the best. Like when I hear some of the great things that the leaders that I'm coaching are doing, like one got a huge grant that they had been seeking for their organization. And, another person took their school from like low ranking to like their employee engagement was like super off the charts. And so like these are the things where it's like, I know that I can help kind of create those ripple effects as leaders feel healthier, organizations get healthier, and there's just like this ripple effect in the work that they're doing. It's so fun.
That's wonderful. I think when we show up into the work that we're doing in a excited and positive way, like you said, it does have a ripple effect. And I'm curious where your greatest source of inspiration in giving back is your greatest source of inspiration.
I think that my family has always instilled that generosity in me, and the way that, we as a family took in my great-grandmother when she had Alzheimer's. So growing up as a little kid, from like the time I was 3 to 8, my great-grandmother lived with us and she had Alzheimer's. And I think my parents just lived generosity, bringing people into our home, caring for them, extending themselves in service. And it wasn't like a specific act, right? And it wasn't like, oh, we're giving this kind of money, or it was just the way of being. And, my grandparents as well. And so like, I would say my heritage of caring for people as just a way of life makes it really easy for me to continue in that tradition. Like that is just a part of who I am. So yeah, my family and the way that we care for each other has just been an example of like, this is a great way to live.
It sounds almost effortless for your family to role model that for you and for them to exemplify that generous spirit. It almost feels like it was natural for your family to be like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned in the bio, but I'm Latina, Mexican American, Chicana, and I think it is just a part of our culture. They don't have the numbers like the stats of like big gifts, but it is just about the way of being. And I think this is within the Latino community, and it's always been there of giving and caring for each other. There's always another seat at the table. Like, doesn't matter how small the kitchen table is. And there are stats on like, people who don't have a lot actually are giving their greatest percentage of their income. And so while it doesn't hit, philanthropy today's headlines of big gifts, it is just a way of being like that what I have is also for you too. It is we're a we community, and a we people. And so we just care for each other, and knowing that it's a part of my heritage, really gives me energy to continue to bring that into all levels of leadership so that everyone at every stage can just live that out.
That's beautiful. I hadn't thought about your culture being like that, but I do know there's the stereotypical saying, mi casa es su casa, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very true. Like it is just a way of being, of caring for each other. And I think that, yeah, I'm honored to be a part of the culture. And also, it's an open armed thing. Like we, as a culture, we invite other people into that space of giving and having the joy of giving and the parties and the that it is joy filled. I think that's part of my coaching too, is to tapping into that joy rather than duty of what we should do. But when people are cared for, they come alive, right? Like we know when people feel connected, when humans feel connected, it creates that ripple effect. And so when communities are cared for, yeah, it's just it's a beautiful thing.
I'm thinking about what we are talking about in our society today, that ever since the pandemic, loneliness has been an epidemic.
Yeah.
And giving back, connecting through volunteerism, through the nonprofit space is a way for us to combat that loneliness. But I also know that for some who are giving too much in the nonprofit space, that can be a lonely feeling as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like whether you're in the space and you feel like you're just doing it all, or if you're not in that space, like feeling isolated, I think there's like a great opportunity in that to partner with people who are in corporate and want to contribute. They want to feel connected to the community. Well, nonprofits, you are connected to the community. So many of them have those relationships. They know the needs of community. And rather than like continuing trying to do it from like scarcity and exhaustion, connecting with other businesses and saying, hey, you have people that want to feel connected. We are really good at connecting people, like seeing that as an asset that they're giving outward, and like nonprofits are providing an opportunity to others. I think sometimes, and in the past, I had this feeling as well of like, oh, we're a poor nonprofit asking for money because we're lacking in resources. But there's so much that you aren't lacking, so much that these nonprofits have to offer, whether it's reading to kids in the hospital or playing with animals. I mean, like all of nonprofits is essentially doing things that are good for society, that are end up being good for our health. And like knowing that you have that resource and that's an asset to provide to other people who are longing to connect, longing for meaning, it really can be a beautiful marriage that helps both ends, right?
I love how you talk about a partnership and how we both can meet the mission of the organization by working together. And we both benefit by working together.
Absolutely.
Tell me if there are listeners out there who don't know how to get involved in the nonprofit world, what would be your recommendation for them to get started?
I would say first connect on like what you're passionate about, a need that you see or feel and want to do something about it because there's probably an organization doing it. So you don't have to necessarily go do another organization. There are so many nonprofits, and that partnering is really powerful. So yeah, first consider like what are you passionate about? What are you excited about making a difference in? And then just do a little research online, finding an organization. I will say, if you reach out to an organization and say, I want to volunteer, if they don't already have a volunteer program, that it like within the nonprofit, they might not be able to respond quickly or know how to utilize your service. And that's not a problem. I'd say don't let that deter you. I'd also say figure out like what is it that you want to give? How do you want to give? Do you just want to like show up and, pack bags or whatever, like a specific task? Or is it something where you can support them with social media, support organizations with, different kind of skills? So don't let it deter you if you don't hear immediately back. They're probably just overwhelmed. And, maybe you just do something fun, host a party, raise some money for them because those resources do make an impact.
That's awesome. Tell me, if you could make the world a better place, what would your vision for a better world be?
I would say that, like, let's not separate philanthropy from who we are. And I mentioned this a little bit, like letting it be integrated. I think that there's the separation of like, oh, I do my work here and then I just go and volunteer, or I just go give this gift in a different part of my life. Being able to integrate your desire to care for humans throughout what you do, if you're a leader at a business, the way that you show up as a leader in generosity and understanding your people and caring for them, fighting for, family paid time off, like those are things that are good for humanity. Advocating for volunteer hours if you're within a business. So like your desire for philanthropy can be a part of all of who you are, the way that you show up for your friends, the way that you care for yourself and your community. Let it be a part, like let it be integrated. Because when we have leaders at all levels of society that are saying, I'm going to make decisions for the greater good of humanity, then I think we'll reduce some of the challenges that we're facing in our world today.
That's beautiful. And it's a reason why I like to get back to the root definition of what a philanthropist is, which is a lover of mankind.
Yeah.
So if everybody could be a little bit more like you, which is it naturally comes from within to give in your everyday life, then the world could be a more beautiful place.
Yeah. And that's what I love about your book and the work that you're doing is because we are all philanthropists. It doesn't have to be segmented to just a few people, right? Like we all, wherever you're at, if you're listening to this podcast, you have some access to opportunity, right? Like the time to listen to it, the internet to download it. We have things to give. And so like soaking into that gratitude for what we have is a great way to start to say like, okay, how can I help someone else?
That's beautiful. I did, and thank you for saying that about what I'm doing. I love to share stories like you of philanthropists who are impacting the world in big and small ways, and how you became the way that you are able to give and be generous. Is there anything we didn't cover today that you want to make sure our listeners learn about what you have experienced and what your passion for giving is?
Yeah, as a coach, and having gotten coaching, it is what has helped shift my energy that is into a way that it's more sustainable, a lifestyle of giving where I have that balance of knowing how to care for myself, the knowing how to be very, like I don't need to know how to be very passionate about changing the world. Like that's just there, but also balancing how I go about my work and focusing on what causes to spend my energy on. Sometimes as givers, we want to do it all. We want to give everywhere and feel overwhelmed. And so knowing how to move out of that overwhelm into action, however big and small, is really powerful. And so I just encourage your listeners to consider getting support if you're feeling overwhelmed. If you're
Excellent.
wanting to make a bigger impact. I do free discovery calls just to explore like what is it that I want to do and how can I bring more joy and ease into my work and into my life.
Excellent. Tell me how we can reach out to you.
Yeah, my website is sonyaperez.com. That's Sonya with a Y, Sonya. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I have a newsletter, Leadership Inside Out, because I think that when we take care of ourselves, that is what comes out into the world. And encourage people to join my newsletter or reach out, grab a coffee, a virtual coffee with me. I'm passionate about the people who are making a difference in the world. So happy to connect with your audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Sonya.
Thanks for having me.